Good afternoon. I'm John Falchicchio, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, and I want to welcome you to the Recovery Weekly Check-In. We've got a pretty packed agenda this week, so we wanted to welcome you, but get started. Before we do, I wanted to bring up some information that we wanted to share with you about the Small Business Brief Advice Legal Clinic. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what it is it's an ability to speak one-on-one with a lawyer for free. This is a program that the Mayor's Office has done for the last several years with the DC Bar and their pro bono center. And it'll take place on Thursday, October 29th, from 12 to 5 p.m. So if you're an existing small business or an aspiring entrepreneur, you can get one-on-one advice with an attorney. And so we'll work to put this information up on both our social media as well as coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery, which, as you know, is where we list all the information that we share on these weekly recovery updates. So please do sign up for your appointment at the free legal advice clinic brought to you by the DC Bar Pro Bono Center. So with that, I want to get right into our presenters. Today we've got a number of presenters, and the first one to kick us off is the Director of the Department of Employment Services, Dr. Unique Morris-Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Falchicchio, and welcome to everybody at home. And I want to also say hello to the esteemed panel on both my right and left. I am Dr. Unique Morris-Hughes, the Director of the DC Department of Employment Services. And not only do I bring you updates on information related to unemployment insurance and what the DC Department of Employment Services is doing to help bring district residents back to work safely, but I also bring some good news about the types of services and programming that we are offering.
Fantastic. And you've got two employers with this.
I do. So both of our employer partners are just that. They are partners. They have done a fantastic job in not only getting district residents back to work, but always being open and flexible and thought partners on how we can offer better services and be better partners to the business community. And so we have Tom McCullough, who is president of the McCullough Construction Company. And then we also have Victor Holt, who is president and CEO of VTech Solutions. I'm really excited that you'll have an opportunity to hear from them today.
And before we get to that, you've got a little bit of an update about where we are in terms of the DC labor market.
I do. So everyone knows and is living through what is really unprecedented unemployment, insurance and unemployment here in the District of Columbia and the region. And so this just gives you a snapshot of what we really already know, that our unemployment rate is really at a high compared to last year. As of September 2020, we're really at about 8.7% in the District of Columbia, with labor force participation just under 400,000. I don't want to steal the thunder of my colleague, Director Smith, who's going to give a lot of important and relevant information about labor market participation and what's happening in the workforce sector. But this just gives a snapshot of where we're currently at today. And so this table illustrates the really a look back of unemployment rates since 1976. And you'll see, although there have been years prior to 2009 where there has been a higher unemployment rate, where we're currently at today is much higher than where we were at 4 years ago. And so I'm really excited to talk about what we're doing to put district residents back to work, of course, in a way that is safe for everybody. But at the Department of Employment Services, and really under the vision and innovation of our Mayor, Muriel Bowser, the Office of Talent and Client Services that we created about a year ago is really focused on 3 unique and distinct activities. One is strategy and planning to DC businesses that want to grow their workforce. 2 is workforce and human capital pipeline building. So we have a lot of district residents that come to us that are looking for their next opportunity, and we are able to help support businesses by helping to build the workforce and human capital pipeline and doing some strategy sessions. And then next is recruiting and hiring. We have a lot of amazing programs that help district residents get back to work that come from all over the District of Columbia. And it's our way of bringing programming that not only helps build occupational skills, but helps to build the knowledge base of district residents that are interested in maybe upskilling in their current profession or upskilling in a new profession. And so I want to invite everyone who is interested in learning more about our Office of Talent and Client Services to visit DOES.dc.gov. Again, that's DOES.dc.gov. And so you may be thinking, well, when I go to the DOES.dc.gov website, what exactly will I see? And what exactly do we have to offer? And so we can offer everything from resume development, job searching. If you are an employer, you can post your open and vacant positions in our amazing web-based tool called DC Networks. We offer unique services to veterans. We also can support you through coaching and interview techniques. We also have a digital literacy and financial literacy workshops available. And then basic computer skills and technology training. So we like to be a jack of all trades because we know that we are in the business of getting district residents back to work and really promoting the district's human capital. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn it back over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Great. And we've got a couple of guests that Unique had mentioned. The 2 guests that we have are Tom and Victor, who've been working with the Department of Employment Services and hired DC residents through first source agreements. So they were going to tell us a little bit about that, and Tom was going to start us off. Tom, you want to tell us about your experience in hiring DC residents?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, John. And thank you, Dr. Morris Hughes. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So we're a construction company in Washington, D.C., and about 50% of our work, I would say, has some type of government involvement. We actually have a first source agreement on about half of our projects. So one of the challenges in the industry right now, although unemployment is high, the construction industry requires a certain amount of skill and a certain amount of training before a man or a woman really walks on a job site, because we want to really keep everybody safe. So what we've started with DOES, actually, it is truly a partnership with DOES, and there's a lot of people that should get credit for it. Scotty Irving with Blue Sky has been a big help. Principal Haith at Anacostia High School really helped us get this thing off the ground. But what we're doing is we're setting up a training program with ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, and we're actually doing core training for DC residents who have no experience in construction. And the core training starts off with construction safety, where the individual gets OSHA 10 training, CPR training, and all the basic training knowledge to work on a job site. After the OSHA training, we go into basic skills for construction. We teach blueprint reading classes, and we also work in carpentry, mechanical, and electrical. Because a lot of times when you're interested in construction, you really don't know what trade you want to get into, and there's a certain amount of introduction to the individual trades that we can give a person, to decide what field to go into. So after the core training, and we did 3 sessions at Anacostia High School where we trained 25 to 30 people, and it's a serious commitment. The commitment is 10 weeks, it's 4 hours a night, 2 nights a week, and you have to really attend 90% of the classes to graduate. Once you graduate, we actually require that our subcontractors, between us, the GC, and our subcontractors, we require them to hire a certain amount of people. So this is not a goal, or it's not a best effort thing. If I hire Hardesty Concrete to do the concrete work, they have to hire 4 people from our class and give them a serious shot at construction. So it's really good for the individual because they know there's a good chance they're going to get a job, and a meaningful job in construction when they graduate from our class. And it's really a great opportunity for the subcontractors and for us, because we know that this person who has committed themselves for 10 weeks, and it's a serious commitment, has put in the effort to deserve an opportunity. So it's an alternative program to the mandatory hours required, but so far it's been very successful, and we're going to start up another class, 10-week class starting next Tuesday.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you for talking to us about that. And I know we have another employer joining us today, and that's Victor Holt. Victor is the president and CEO of VTech Solutions, and he has a built environment as well that he works on, Tom, but his is also a little bit more virtual than yours. So we'll go to Victor to talk about what he looks for when he's looking to hire DC residents.
One of the first things that we always do is reach out to DOES. Matter of fact, Dr. Morris Hughes, we participated earlier today in the Talent Tuesday with Ms. Carr and Ms. Johnson.
Great.
As we are actively looking for IT employees right now. But through the years, we have worked with you guys and have been very successful as far as really teaming with you to find residents that are looking for opportunity that we can provide that to. Over the last year, we have became an Amazon partner, and this was a direct result of our relationship and working with TCS. We were at the TCS kickoff when you had it, and we met some of your stakeholders there, told them what we were attempting to do, that we had just partnered with Amazon, and we was able to do the training at your training academy over in Southeast DC. And that training was a week-long training where at the end of the training period, individuals were able to become Amazon certified. So I really thought that was a big, big success in working with you guys. Aside from that, we have leveraged your OJT program, where we have folks internally at VTech that work at our corporate office who have gone through it, as well as those who we have put on DC government contracts and on federal contracts. And it has just been a great experience with us, working with Ms. Carr, working with Ms. Johnson there, and being able to provide the residents of the district work opportunity.
Great. And Dr. Morris Hughes, Victor used terminology that you're going to have to explain to us.
Sure.
He said OJT.
On-the-job training.
And tell us how that program works.
Sure.
for employers.
And I don't know, I think the mayor may have posted this week, but can you see a smile behind the mask? And I had to take down my mask. I get really excited because Tom and Victor have really done an outstanding job of getting DC residents hired. And I'm so grateful for that. But on-the-job training is a program that we have at DOES, and it allows employers to hire a participant in one of our programs or someone that comes to us in need looking for a job, and we will reimburse up to, I believe it's 60% of the wages while the individual is working on site and on the job. And so Victor has been able to take advantage of that program, and it's a great way for businesses to kind of try out an employee. It's a great way for people who come and visit us to try out a new job and a new industry to see if it's something they like.
Great. So we'll come back to Unique, Tom, and Victor, talk a little bit more when we get to our discussion. But we have Tom and Victor on because there are employers who are hiring even during the pandemic. And so Anna Smith from who runs our Workforce Investment Council recently did an analysis to think and to look at what industries were hiring and where there are opportunities. And then also we'll prepare district residents for those opportunities. So with us now is Anna Smith to talk a little bit about that analysis and what's next.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor, and thanks to everyone for being here and for tuning in. Glad to be here. I'm Anna Smith, Executive Director of the Workforce Investment Council. We can go to the next slide. For those of you maybe less familiar with our work, I'm really pleased to follow these incredible employers and my colleague, Dr. Morris Hughes, because our work really is in support of all of the employers, all of the residents seeking jobs, and our agencies doing the heroic work of making sure that we connect people with opportunity. We play sort of these four primary roles: leadership, oversight, resources, and innovation. And what I'll spend my time talking through, and we've got a bunch of slides, so I'll talk through it quickly, are some of the resources. Our board is a business-led board made up of employers and private sector partners, really designed to advise the mayor and our agency partners on ensuring that what we're doing to prepare our residents is in service of ensuring that they are prepared for the jobs that exist now and also in the future. And so the data that we'll share with you is a study that we did with an outside consultant alongside our partners and work with the Deputy Mayor for Education's office to help us get a better understanding of what are the needs and the opportunities we see in the short and then even the near term of the next 3 years as we help the district recover. So our primary high demand occupation sectors are on this slide here. As you can see, these are where we see the most job postings historically in our region and including the district. Obviously, things have changed as a result of COVID, and so our study was really designed to look at what we project as the industries that will return and recover soonest, and then really think about what those jobs and occupations are and the skills needed to be competitive for those jobs, so that all of the great work that Dr. Morris Hughes does, Department of Human Services, the State Education Office, and others do to support residents is in line with our best thinking. Next slide. I won't talk through this slide in too great detail, but as you can see, we've sort of distilled to a number of focus areas where we know we've got to do a bunch of research, analysis, fact-finding, qualitative and quantitative, to make sure that we are looking at the full picture. But summarizing it, in its finest form, really we look at supply, demand, and capacity. What is the supply? Who are the people who've been impacted, who've lost their jobs, who need retraining or connection with opportunities? What are the demand we see? Who's hiring now, or who will hire, and what does that look like over the next few years? And then what's our capacity as a city to educate and provide training opportunities for those individuals? And that's done in partnership as we look at our K-12 space, our public education system, the University of the District of Columbia, adult training programs, publicly funded, those in the private sector space, and others. And essentially, these are the primary buckets of work that we are focused on and do a lot of coordination across the system with, and will likely focus on for the next couple of years. Next slide. Essentially, the key questions that we sought to answer through this study, and I'm going to give you a really quick snapshot. We will make some of this available on our website, and I can share that later. We're looking at, what are the industries that are going to recover and at what pace? What are the kinds of qualifications? Because we know that a lot of DC residents who may have been impacted have a lot of skills, have a lot to offer. And while we know that industries like hospitality and tourism have been hit hardest, folks can use those skills from that industry, from those jobs, to transition and transfer into other sectors where we know there's more likely to be more jobs in the future. And so these are the questions and that really guided a bunch of our analysis. And again, a quick overview of this slide. I won't speak too deeply, but what was really helpful for us and what we worked with our partners to do was to think about what are the types of buckets of jobs that we want to be thinking about ensuring we are prepared to prepare people for. And so we bucketed them into these zones. We know that there are a lot of opportunities. There are organizations and businesses that continue to hire. And we also know that some of the places where industries are coming back soonest may not have those jobs that we know will lead people to family-sustaining wages and to the middle class. And so it's a balance. We want to help ensure that folks are connected with jobs in the near term, those sort of zone 1, zone 2 jobs that have low barriers to entry that folks could pivot into quickly, while also making sure there's some connection to jobs that might require additional training, ensuring that there are pathways for these individuals. And so we look at both pathwayability is a word we are coining to see what could lead to other jobs with higher wages, and also attainability. What are the places that people can get into jobs soonest? And so that takes us to this next slide, which shows us what we've identified as the 30 highest sort of opportunity occupations in the near term. And it's a mix. We know that there are jobs and opportunities across all sectors. We know that healthcare and those jobs in the sort of computer and information technology space are more likely to rebound and grow and see growth in the near term than other sectors. And we also know that those are sectors where we can get residents into higher wage occupations most quickly. And so this is a tool that we are using across all of our agency partners to help as we think about where we need to add more capacity for more training opportunities, and also think about what it takes to prepare people for these skills based on the skills that they already bring with them. So that's what we'll talk about in these last couple slides, and then I promise I will turn it back over to my colleagues. But one of the things that we looked at as we thought about both the supply and the demand was, who are these individuals that Dr. Morris-Hughes talked about that we know have been impacted, who have lost their jobs? What are the skills and the strengths that they bring with them? And so I won't belabor the point, but we looked at all of the occupations and some of the key knowledge, skills, and competencies that are needed for those occupations that people lost jobs from. Again, we know hospitality, tourism, retail were hardest hit. And then we looked at some of the occupations where we know there will be demand. And this slide shows us that there are certainly areas where we will need to think about how our training programs, how our wraparound services help people in the skill areas that will be needed for those jobs that will exist. And so as you can see, a lot of these we might say, I hate the use of soft skills, but core skills, active listening, engagement, customer service will be skills that will be needed across the board. And we know that a lot of folks have those skills already, but that those will be particularly important as we are building out and scaling some of our training and retraining opportunities for those individuals coming out of the hardest hit sectors. And then almost finally, the last one I wanted to just sort of emphasize in our research, in our study, was that we know that there's going to be a lot of demand in not just the District of Columbia, but our region. You know, we've seen more than 140,000 people filing for unemployment insurance just in the district. But many of them live in Maryland and Virginia, and we know that there's going to be a great need as we think about those who've been impacted and the forecasting of what we see as new or returning jobs in the next 36 months. And so one of the things we're also really focused on alongside our agency partners and with our business partners is the issue of equity. How are we helping those individuals with less than a bachelor's degree, with the most barriers, be advantaged as they're entering the labor market, because we know they're going to be competing against even more folks. And so I think on-the-job training, skills, and experiences we can give to our residents will be particularly important. And then the final slide just summarizes some of the key areas of focus, both as we think of the workforce recovery in the short term. How do we connect people to those sort of zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 jobs that exist that people can pivot into quickly, while we also seek to build out a pipeline and training resources and connectivity to those wages and jobs and occupations that we foresee growth in, that will also enable families to sustain themselves and to remain in the district. And so these are some of the next steps that we have, and we are working alongside our board and our agency partners to put in place. Thanks so much, Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you for that presentation. And also, there was a lot in there.
Yes.
There's a lot of content, and you went through it well. I kept pulling out slides that I wanted to ask more questions about, but I'm sure our listeners and our watchers, viewers will have questions. Where can they, first and foremost, though, where can they find this information and go through it themselves a little bit?
So this is an abbreviated presentation. We will be making this available on our website, dcworks.dc.gov. So we will have this and more of the further analysis available for employers, residents, anyone seeking it.
Great. And before we go to our next presenter, I do want to mention that you can ask a question of any of the panelists. You can do so if you're on the phone line by dialing 0 now, and that'll allow you to get in the queue to ask a question live, or on social media. If you're in the Facebook feed, you can type a question in, and if you're on social media like Twitter, you can use the hashtag DCHope, and that'll bring you into the conversation as well. But next up, we have our final presenter. Some would say we saved the best for last, Director. So Director Christy Whitfield from the Department of Small Local Business Development is going to tell us a little bit about the work that they were doing in the last few weeks, especially the DREAM grants, which is something that I know you worked on in the last few weeks. So with that, Director Whitfield.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues and some CBEs. It's nice to see. So greetings to everyone. You know, DSLBD has been busy working in partnership with the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor to make sure that we are continuing to be as aggressive as we can in these pre-recovery times. I'm not sure what we're exactly, calling these times, but I think that we know that our businesses continue to be on the forefront of this COVID pandemic, and we know that we have to do everything we can to be as aggressive in our help. And thanks to the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor, DSLBD was very grateful that we had $200,000 of grants assistance that we were able to offer starting October 1. We actually closed that grant round in the first week, and last week we're happy to choose 20 local businesses. Those businesses will be getting their funds very quickly. We know that the businesses need the money, and the purpose of the DREAM grants is to make sure that while we are working on recovery, we are also still helping businesses pivot and thrive. I think a lot of our businesses have been laser focused on survival, but we also want to make sure that people know Washington is still open for business and businesses are still starting. Dr. Morris Hughes talks about the fact that some businesses are still hiring. I think it's important to remember that it's not all gloom and doom, that our entrepreneurs in our city are sometimes the most creative, best resources for interesting solutions. And so we're elated to be able to, on behalf of the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, support our smallest businesses and make sure that they are able to, persevere as best we all can. So those DREAM grants, again, those 20 businesses, all from Ward 7 and Ward 8, we're excited last week to realize, and we are, crossing our fingers and expecting to be wiring them money as expeditiously as possible. Because the other thing we know is that this Deputy Mayor and this Mayor are impatient to get the resources into the pockets of the small businesses, and we're here, as their advocates and envoys for that important work. The other thing that I wanted to make sure, if we can go back to the previous slide, we recently last month celebrated Art All Night. And Art All Night is a citywide party where people say it's the coolest party that you didn't know the government was hosting for you. And we were, like everyone, needing to pivot and do innovative things and also go virtual because of safety being at the forefront of everybody's mind. The Art All Night is a real collaboration of our businesses and our creative community. And we also schedule Art All Night in the same month with the Office of Film, Cable, Television, OFTCME, Director Angie Gates, shout out. And our big focus this year for Art All Night was making sure that people realize that the corridors and the creatives, can still work together, even if it is virtually, to make sure that we're amplifying all types of small business, especially at a time when people aren't necessarily able to be together. The Art All Night this year was a huge success. We had 4 showcases over the course of 2 weeks, and then hundreds of virtual events. We were excited to celebrate, over 23,000 viewers during our live viewers, and that to date, 275,000 engagements of people with businesses. The other piece for us is that we know coming into the holiday seasons that we want people to be in the habit of engaging in every possible way with our small businesses and our creatives. So one of the greatest things that came out of this was creating the infrastructure that we think will be one of our models as we work through the small business season, of encouraging people to stay engaged with small businesses, stay engaged with the creatives. And so we've got a website. It was dcartallnight.org, where we had marketplaces in each of the corridors where people could go and purchase and engage with all types of businesses. And we see this as really the early start of the holiday shopping season, because we know that people will be looking for ways to continue to shop local and to continue to support our local businesses during the holidays. And so having that infrastructure in place early was really important, as we made sure that we were able to remind people that there are other ways to get your resources, other than Amazon and other big box chains, that our local businesses have ways that we can virtually serve you. So Art All Night was a great success, and we want to thank the mayor and the deputy mayor for making sure that this party was too important to cancel, and we want to thank everybody that participated and make sure that we keep participating. It's not too late. You can still see some of those showcases, but most importantly, you can go to that website, dcartallnight.org, and continue to support both the creatives and the corridors that were part of that. Another big thing that we have been working on with support of the mayor and the deputy mayor is closing loopholes in the CBE law. And this is something that I'm very passionate and excited about. As the director of this agency, I learned quickly that our ability to advocate on behalf of the small business community would only ever be as strong as the law we are chosen to uphold. And we know that there have been some gaps between the spirit and the letter of the law. So, we were really grateful that Councilmember McDuffie has given a hearing date on October 29th to hear about the CBE law reform and to take it under consideration. But I think for any CBEs, I've got some CBEs here with us, and for some CBEs that might be listening, I would say that there are really some very high-level components of this law that I want people to really hear about. We are trying to make sure that we weed out non-local CBEs, which is a pretty simple concept, but you'd think it would be easy to do, but it's not always as easier said than done. And this law is going to help us really close that gap. We are really focused on making sure that we are protecting our CBE spend, and meaning that when people are supposed to be spending with CBEs, that they are, and that when they are not, the penalties reflect the mayor and the deputy mayor's commitment to this law. Previously, our fine structure had been not the type of, not as incentivizing as it will be. The proposal that the executive is making right now is that if beneficiaries are not spending the full amount of money that's supposed to be spent with CBEs, that the penalty will now be the gap between what you spent and what you were supposed to spend, as opposed to what amounts to a 3.5%. I see Victor sort of do the math in his head right there. But, so we're excited about that. And then finally, making sure that our CBEs and our subcontractors are being paid in a timely way. The Quick Payment Act is an important resource for CBEs, but our suggestion to the legislative branch, is that we make sure that our small businesses are getting paid in a more timely fashion. And we've got language in here to make sure that the Quick Payment Act is triggered expeditiously, and then that primes are submitting for payment in a consistent manner. We know that you're only as good as the last job you had in terms of getting that payment, and we want to make sure that some CBEs who have felt like they are being used as 0% financing, that is no longer going to be the case. We're going to be having a roundtable on this. I was happy to meet with the Government Affairs Committee of the DC Chamber recently, and we will have on our website, but tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we're having an open house, and I'll make sure we get that information into the notes. Then last but not least, Deputy Mayor, and then we'll be able to get to the rest of our discussion. I wanted to talk about our Build Back Better series that we've been doing, because we know that our businesses are very busy, but there's topics that sometimes you want to discuss or get information in the privacy of your own home or maybe after business hours. We've got a Build Back Better series where we have been talking with people who are service providers, with businesses who are pivoting. You know, as I said, our entrepreneurs are some of the most creative problem solvers that you'll ever meet. But sometimes you need to be connected with other resources, and DSLBD is here to help facilitate that. You know, not all the conversations are exciting, you know, the exciting pivots. We talk with people that are doing that work, but then, you know, one of the early sessions in the Build Back Better series was a sit-down that I had with a bankruptcy lawyer to have people realize that there are tools out there that are available to them, and I want to make sure that all of the things that, you know, I'm a former small business owner, the types of things that we worry about in solitude under cover of night are available in a conversational form for people to watch privately. Not everybody wants to sign up for a bankruptcy work session, but I think that it's important to realize that those tools are available to people and that people should use them as the tools that they are without shame or regret. And so please check out our Build Back Better series. And then also we are collecting other topics and ideas. So if there are things that people want to hear about or wish that we were talking to, or experts that you wish you could have a little chat with, you know, we're asking all those questions that people we hope we're asking, but also, you know, you can get that information without paying $400 an hour. So I'd say check out our Build Back Better series. Last but not least, we on our website, DSLBD.dc.gov, we will, you know, we've got a series of upcoming events. So we're doing a Lunch and Learn series. You know, we have our District Connect, which is coming up towards the end of the month, and then again, finally, last but not least, this Small Business Roundtable. If you have questions, particularly about the CBE Law Reform, a red line version of the law is on our website, in addition to a summary with the high-level changes that we are proposing. We want to make sure that people have a chance to read and review this, and if they have comments or thoughts, you know, I want people to engage in the process and make sure that their voices and thoughts are heard. So I think that is enough for right now. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the opportunity to share this information, and we look forward to continuing to partner with the small business community as we forge ahead.
And Director, for the slide on the screen, we mentioned a couple of different events. Where can folks that are listening or who are watching, where can they find the schedule of those events?
They can find those events on our website, DSLBD.dc.gov, and it's in one of the front carousel turns where you can click and get a link. Also to our Small Business Toolkit, which has a calendar of, you know, other upcoming events, both from DSLBD and partner agencies that we work with across the city.
Great. And for those who are listening or watching, if you're on the phone line, you can press 0 now, and that will get you into the queue. We actually had a caller, Dr. Unique Morris-Hughes, who asked, but had to drop off the call. He asked if you could repeat the information for where job seekers can go to look for both jobs, but also that assistance on the job training side, too.
Yeah, so they can visit does.dc.gov. There is a tab at the top of the web page that says programs or job seekers. And so I would step on that link, and that will provide a host of information on the different programs we offer and how to register for DC Networks.
Great. And before we pull some of the other callers into the conversation, I had a question for Tom and for Victor. Either can answer it first. But if I'm looking to get into your industry, there's a lot of people who are looking at a career change right now, looking for that next job opportunity. If I want to go into construction or into IT, what do I have to get ready? How should I come to you and show that I'm ready to work for you? So Tom or Victor, who wants to take that one first?
I'll take that one. So what we do, John, is we advertise all over the city and tell people where our next training class is going to be. So right now, we're starting a job at Northwest 1, which is on North Capitol Street. And what I'll do is I'll provide you the email that we can put on the website later today. So Marcellus Jones-Cobb handles our training program, and you have to email him directly to get signed up for the class.
Great. And so that class, how long should they plan to be in that sort of training? And
Well, that's the core training that we do in conjunction with ABC. So that core training class is a 10-week class, and again, it's 2 nights a week for 4 hours per night from 4 to 8 p.m. The training is right across from the construction site. And I'll just give you the website right now because Marcellus just actually called me. But the email, if you're interested, is it's Marcellus, MARCELLUS at McCullough-construction.com. So if you email Marcellus, right now we have 25 or 30 slots for the first session, and maybe 10 or 15 people have signed up. So there's probably another 15 or so slots left. We're actually, if you don't get signed up for this one, there'll be another class that follows immediately after.
Great. And so, Victor, I'm a deputy mayor. I know how to work my iPhone pretty well. I know how to tweet. But if I want to make a jump into the IT space, how do I get myself ready, and how should I present myself to you as a potential employer?
One of the first things that I always tell folks is to look in the mirror and ask themselves why. Why do you want to go into this space? Why do you want to work for this company? And, get past the I need to pay a bill, I need to live, but why do you want to do what you're attempting to do as far as work for any company? What is the benefit and value that you're going to bring to that organization? A lot of times, folks, they look at experience, and it was something that I shared earlier with Talent Tuesday today, is, employers rather, we can train, especially teaming with the OES through the on-the-job training program, through the OJT. There's avenues to accomplish that, and that's something that we know how to partner with them to enable a potential employee to be successful. So, as we talked about pivoting and transitioning, especially we know that hospitality has been hit very hard, and I took a few notes. But, hospitality, some of those skill sets, let me tell you how they transfer. They transfer into client service. They transfer into call center. They transfer into help desk. They transfer into outreach, because those people, someone said they didn't want to say soft skills, but those, I call them gold skills, because certain things you just can't teach. It's either in a person or it's not. So I always look at, why do you want to come work for my organization or any organization? What are you bringing to the table? And I always tell folks, show me your faith. And a lot of times, folks, I tell everyone, faith is not a word, it's an acronym. Show me your faith, your focus, your accountability, your commitment, and your execution, because those are intangibles that a lot of times you just can't teach. It's either in a person or it's not. And then you can start, working with that candidate to build. IT is very broad. And by us being in the middle of a health pandemic right now, one of the messages that I put out to folks is technology is everywhere. And health IT is becoming a very sexy word. So if you understand health and you understand technology, there's a new opportunity for you. There's a new journey that you can partake in. And a lot of folks, I think, miss the boat with that because they just want to be hardcore technology. But there's so much technology in health, and, you know, a lot of times it's not taken advantage of. So anyone, you know, that is coming into it, I always say, look at the full spectrum. Look beyond, you know, if you can look beyond the network engineer, the application developer, and all of that, and understand where all of those skill sets are used, then you can broaden your horizon and be able to capture more or even bigger opportunities.
Deputy Mayor, I would just also offer another resource, and it's a great question. Career Coach DC on the OSSI website, careercoachdc.emsicc.com, careercoachmzcc.com. It's on the OSSI Career Pathways website. There are a number of links. A lot of this is targeted towards our career technical education younger students, but they're also applicable to adult learners as well. And on Career Coach in particular, an individual can take a 6 or 60 question assessment. What are you interested in? What skills and strengths do you have? And it will take them to those occupations, to those industries, to know how they're, to our colleagues' point, what transfers, what they bring with them, and how that could be applicable in another industry, as well as where they can seek training for those occupations. So Career Coach DC is a great resource, and the Career Pathways site on ossi.dc.gov website is another great tool for folks.
Great. And I want to thank you for coining the phrase pathway ability. Pathway
That's a great
ability.
one.
That's a good one. Building, I assume, off of Mayor Bowser's Pathways to the Middle Class. I saw you shaking your head a lot when Victor was talking about sort of that skill set. Is that questionnaire, is that a good place for people to understand sort of the attainability and the pathway ability of the areas they might be interested in applying to a job in?
Absolutely. And I actually will give credit to Dr. Morris Hughes on this, but we often think about from a deficit lens, but all of our residents, people who may be facing real challenges right now or have obstacles that they're working to overcome, bring such strengths. And how we talk, she talks constantly about how, we need to help residents, and we need to think about it for ourselves as well, about what we bring to the table and how to build upon that. And so I think some of the resources I just referenced are great places to help us remind and make those connections even more direct and clear. But yes, we know that there are a core set of skills that are transferable, and as we mentioned earlier, I think upskilling, that there are things that you can bring to the table and probably other things that you might need to learn more and differently, maybe more technical skills or maybe different computer skills that will help you into a pathway, into an opportunity that is different from maybe where you've worked before. And that's where I would say the folks at Talent and Client Services, the folks at the American Job Center that represent a number of agencies that provide support and services and case management to individuals seeking jobs, they're a great place to start. And Dr. Morris Hughes mentioned does.dc.gov, DC Networks, enrolling there, and connecting with the American Job Center are all other great places for folks to look for.
And we're going to go into our callers in a moment, but just a question I think for Unique and Anna. So if you're a prospective employer and you want to hire DC residents, what's your first stop?
That's great. So we want you to visit does.dc.gov. We want you to go to DC Networks, and there is a link for employers. We want employers to register. There are so many different ways that we can partner together, from employers posting their jobs on the DC Networks website to reaching out to us to partner on any of the programs OJT, which is on the job training, Project Empowerment, DC Career Connections, DCIA. Oh my goodness, I haven't talked about DCIA today, but through the mayor's wisdom and innovation and leadership, we launched the DC Infrastructure Academy to give people have an opportunity to work in both traditional infrastructure sectors and IT infrastructure. So we can help employers so many ways, and we want to be the chosen partner for employers, and we want to flood the pipeline with talented DC residents.
Great. And then if you are a DC resident and you're looking for your next opportunity, where should you go?
Same place, DOES.dc.gov, and you can click on any link that says job seekers.
So then here's the fun question. So who goes to the WIC?
So the WIC is the glue. I would say we're the glue. We're the enabling sort of quarterback, backbone, cheerleader for all of our agencies, because for all the work that Dr. Morris Hughes and her colleagues and the amazing folks at DOES do, we also have a number of other agencies that folks don't necessarily think about as they think about talent. Department of Human Services through TANF and SNAP. We have a number of folks getting job training, occupational skills training through those programs and agencies as well. The Department of Disability Services, OSSI's Adult Education Program, and so the WIC really works in partnership with all of these partners and agencies, as well as our education partners in the K-12 and UDC, to build out all of the resources. So no matter which door you come through, DOES.dc.gov being a great place to go, but folks might already be interacting with these other organizations or agencies or community-based organizations. Our job is to make sure that no matter where you come in, you can get connected. And so we're building some of the tools and data infrastructure to support all of that to happen.
Great. And we'll go to the phone lines now. We have a couple callers who've been waiting patiently. I want to thank those folks. And if you do have a question, you could press 0 now, and we'll try to get you in. But why don't we go to our first call from Alex in Ward 2. Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, hello. My name is Alex. I'm from Ward 2, and I'd like to ask such a question. So in relation to the employment and in relation to people returning to their job places, what are the plans of DC government to do COVID-19 testing, and who would be responsible within the DC government for planning and implementing DC COVID-19 testing?
Great. That's thank you, Alex, for that question. Really great question, and it's actually something that we have underway already. So if you go to the coronavirus.dc.gov website and you click on testing, you'll see a whole schedule that we put out each week that tells you where you can get testing. There are some regular sites that happen. One is actually not far from where we are today on F Street between 5th and 4th Street, or I should say 4th and 5th Street, right near the National Building Museum. And that site is open every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's also sites that rotate a couple days a week, and in the evenings we have testing at firehouses around the city. We also have Saturday testing. So the best thing to do to find a site that is closest to you and convenient for you in terms of timing would be to go to coronavirus.dc.gov and look for the testing tab, and that lays out the schedule for you. And anyone who's a district resident or who works in DC in an essential business can go to that testing site. The good thing is that the testing site has a turnaround at this point of about 2.5 days in terms of how quickly the tests are turned around. But we do ask folks to always consult their doctor. If their doctor can't provide a test, then they can go to those testing sites and be tested. And we'll get that turned around, like I said, about 2.5 days after the test is administered. So again, coronavirus.dc.gov for more on that. Next up is William. William, can you hear us, William, in Ward 1?
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor. I have a quick question. I appreciate the fact that we have this workshop that's on now. I wanted to find out what can we do to have a specific one directly identified for specifically just the Department of Employment Services and all of the job opportunities and things specifically in the district. I understand that this is shared with the Office of Small and Local Business, and I think that's a good resource. But there are a lot of people in the district who are really struggling and want to understand what resources are out there, what's going on. Can we have the next one of these just specifically focused solely on employment and what's going on in the city, the trends, the opportunities, just so we don't get lost in this hour, because employment is so specific and important in the district.
Great. And you're referring to folks who are seeking employment, correct?
Well, I'm talking about folks in general. I think that this was, Dr. Morris Hughes had a very broad presentation, and the director of the WIC had a very broad presentation. And I think that the importance of this could get lost in the fact that it shifted from one to the other and then it went right into small and local business. I think if we could have an opportunity to have both of them sit on a panel and talk a little bit about this, just them solely by themselves, and specifically have this focus on, employment, the trends that are going on, what's happening now, where are we going moving forward, all of those type of things, because I think we are really losing the fact that the employment in the District of Columbia is probably the most important issue as we begin to recover. There are a lot of people who are struggling in this city, not only to figure out where they're going to go next, but where they're going to go forward. And I think that, we need an hour specifically focused on the employment opportunities, employment for the district residents solely.
I love it. Well, thank you for that feedback, and I appreciate it. I think it is something that we can focus in on and hone in on more. And I'd kick it over to...
I'd be happy to, come back anytime, and we can bring employers and experts in the industry on how to, like job coaches and how to get people employed. I could talk all day about unemployment insurance. So you say the word, and I'm happy to come back and bring whoever else to be on a panel.
And Director Whitfield laid out some of the engagements that they're doing. Where's a good place for people to find DOES's engagements and how they're available to people as well?
Good question. So I just visited the DOES website to see all the information that we have for job seekers. DOES.dc.gov under services. And then under services, there are probably 10 different separate pages on types of programming for seniors, programming for veterans, project empowerment, which is for returning citizens, DC Career Connections, which is for court-involved older youth, our Office of Youth program. So that's a good place to learn about different activities, engagements that we are doing. And then our social media presence, I think, is pretty expansive and large with lots of different information, including engagements. So we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're also on Facebook.
Great. And then Anna, you gave a presentation. I know you went through it quickly, lots of content, but if people do want to understand a little bit more about what you studied, are there webinars, are there different interactions that you have planned?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the roles of the Workforce Council and our board is to support the coordination. And a lot of that happens through the American Job Center. And as I said, there's actually more than 8 partners, agencies, organizations, government and non-government, that all can offer services. And so what we've been doing in the last several months is really working with all of them to pivot a lot of what they're doing to be able to provide that virtually. And so we actually just had a training focused on how we support and think about case management in a virtual context. And so we are working with our coordinating partners to think about what we can do to make more of this available. And webinars, and also just recording some of these trainings and making them available on our websites is certainly one of the actions we'll be taking. So I imagine when Dr. Morris Hughes and I come back for this very smartly suggested panel and conversation, we'll have even more to share.
Yep. And Deputy Mayor, just one other thing. There's been a lot of discussion about Talent Tuesdays. I will make sure that on the DOES website we have a list of all of the Talent Tuesdays that are coming up and how both employers and job seekers can sign up to participate.
And really, the reason we do these weekly check-ins is to hear direct feedback from where people need more information. So that was good feedback for us, and we've got time for one more call. So we're going to go to Laura in Ward 3. Laura, can you hear me? Laura?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, sorry for the background noise. I have 4 kids and dinner, as I'm calling to ask this question. I'm following up a group of us, parents and teachers and small businesses, have discussed the idea of also similar to how restaurants recently received money, winterization for outdoor dining, to broaden the discussion into this form of economic recovery to talk about funding for outdoor classrooms, to make that a way when people talk as a way to get children back to school more safely. And I wanted to know how we could start a dialogue about making something like that become more integrated between education and the economy. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for that question, Laura. And what I'll do is I'll make sure we get you looped in with Deputy Mayor Kine to talk a little bit more about some of those investments. Laura was actually alluding to a program that we talk a lot about or have talked a lot about on these check-ins, which is our Streetery Winter Ready program, which provides a $6,000 grant to restaurants to allow them to sort of winterize their outdoor dining experiences. And so those distributions are actually happening as we speak with our partners at the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture, as well as the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington and the Latino Economic Development Corporation. And then, as Laura mentioned, we're also looking forward to early November, November 9th, when DCPS will open up its elementary schools to students. There's actually important notifications that are going out to DCPS families this week to talk about the availability of a seat at their schools in a classroom, in a care classroom. So look for information about that as well. Before I close out, I want to just give our panelists kind of their opportunity to give a parting thought as we close out. I'll close with Christy first, just to give kind of any final observations about what we discussed today.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I just want to quickly thank the businesses that are listening and across the city for, continuing to forge ahead. We know this is super tough. We know we don't have the answers. And what I want you to hear from me is that, my team, on behalf of the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor are working as hard as we can to create as many resources and opportunities as we can. So please stay engaged with us. DSLBD.dc.gov. It can sometimes feel a little overwhelming, and it is, but we are here to help. You are not alone. So please reach out, and if we can help, we will, and if we can't, we'll try to connect you with the resources that are available. Thank you.
And then next up is one of our employers, Victor. We talked a lot about HOPE, which is health, opportunity, prosperity, and equity. And so want to just close out your final thoughts about what we talked about today and your parting advice to those who are watching.
My parting advice really is as far as the job, because I took down some notes. So the gentleman that was really talking about ensuring that jobs are made available as an employer. TCS is my business partner, and I pick up the phone and I talk to them ongoingly with any opportunity that we have. There's the Talent Tuesday that we talked about, but there's also a virtual job fair that is being held this upcoming Friday that my organization will be participating in. So for those who are looking for career opportunities, I like to give out my website. It's www.the-chat-solutions with the S.net/careers. On that, you will see health opportunities as we're looking for nurses, social workers, as well as clinicians, but we're also looking for technology folks, network engineers, programmers, network administrators. So I invite you to go. You can apply online. A lot of the openings we post with DOES as well. So we would, welcome the opportunity to know that you're out there and see what next steps could possibly be.
Well, Victor, thank you for that. We'll make sure that we get all that information about the virtual job fair and get that out on our social media as well. So thank you for sharing that. Tom, you shared an email address, but any other parting thoughts?
Oh, thank you, John. So I just want to say that although we've all been affected by coronavirus, and it's been hard on everybody, the construction industry is one industry that has stayed open all during this time. And I think the opportunities are still there in construction, and DOES is really the place to register if you want a job in construction. We work with Mike Watts, and we work with Terry and DeCarlo and that side as an employer, but we also have a host agency agreement with Clayton Witt, and that actually helps, I think, the individual who's looking to get into construction. So there's a lot of opportunities, and we have subcontractors that are looking for workers every day.
Great. Thank you for that. Anna?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would just say, again, we have a lot of resources. We'll make sure that folks can find this information, find these resources. And I would just offer, the WIC's role and our board are deeply committed to ensuring we are building back better. And so how we ensure that there's access for all of the folks who've never yet taken advantage of all the great resources that DC government provides and our agencies are providing. Our focus remains on making sure that employers, residents, those who want to support both sides can get to this information most easily. And so look forward to working with all of you to do that.
Great.
Thanks.
Unique?
So I want to thank you, Deputy Mayor, for putting this discussion together. I look forward to coming back in the near future to discuss everything in the world of employment and even unemployment. Tom and Victor, I owe you all so much. Thank you for being such amazing employer partners. We're so happy to be working with you. We look forward to continuing to nurture and grow the partnership and relationship that we have. Thank you again. To all of our job seekers that are out there, we have resources, we have programs, we have opportunities. Please visit DOES.dc.gov to learn how we can support you. And to employers, we want to be your partner of choice when it comes to helping you staff your teams, your offices, your workforce, your industry. Please visit us at DOES.dc.gov. Thank you.
Great. And I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. Really a whole lot of information. I didn't write down all the websites that we gave out, but there's a lot of information. If you do follow up, there's a resource for you. The other thing I just wanted to highlight was today we opened up another key component of our response to the COVID-19 epidemic, and that is our exposure notification. If you have an iPhone, and you go to your settings, look for the exposure notification setting, and you can easily turn that on in just a couple of steps. It takes about 30 seconds to do, and it will help us immensely with contact tracing as we move forward in the pandemic. If you have an Android, you can go and download the app, look for the DC COVID alert notice. That would be the name of the app, so it's the DC CAN app. So look for that. And again, we mentioned a lot of resources about our recovery, as we like to do during our weekly check-ins. And we post all this information at the DC at the coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery. So again, that website is coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery. Thank you all, and be safe.